A young couple and their toddler vanished on a quiet hike in the Smoky Mountains. 6 years later, a hiker's chilling discovery of a strange fungal growth would unravel a truth too horrifying to imagine. Hey, don't forget to like. Please subscribe for more shocking crime stories and hit the bell icon. The darkest truth are yet to come. The Smoky Mountains, with their misty peaks and endless trails, have always been a place where people go to lose themselves in nature's embrace. But in late July 2018, for one family, that embrace turned into a nightmare. Hannah Ellison, 29, her husband Marcus Ellison, 31, and their 2-year-old son Liam set out for a weekend camping trip in Tennessee's Great Smoky Mountains National Park. They were seasoned hikers, the kind who knew how to read a trail map and pack for every contingency. Yet after 3 days, they didn't return. Their phones went silent, and a massive search found nothing. Not a trace, not a whisper. For 6 years, their disappearance haunted the region, a mystery whispered about in local diners and ranger stations. Then, in the summer of 2012, a group of hikers stumbled across something grotesque at the base of a tree, a pulsating, unnatural fungal mass that would crack the case wide open. I first came across this story in a faded online forum post, late at night, scrolling through threads about unsolved cases. Something about it stuck with me, the weight of a family vanishing, leaving nothing but questions. It's the kind of story that makes you wonder, if you were out there, lost in the wilderness, would anyone find you? Or would the forest just swallow you whole? Hannah and Marcus were the kind of couple everyone envied. Hannah, a high school biology teacher, had a laugh that could light up a room and a knack for spotting rare wildflowers. Marcus, a freelance photographer, was the adventurer, always chasing the perfect shot of a sunrise over a ridge. Liam, their little barmuma, was their world, curly-haired, always clutching a stuffed bear named Rusty. Their trip was meant to be a simple one, a 3-day loop along the Appalachian Trail, staying on well-marked paths suitable for a toddler. They'd packed light but smart, water, snacks, a first aid kit, in a small tent. Hannah's mother, Clara, later told investigators they'd promised to check in daily, even if it meant hiking to a spot with cell service. But by the evening of their 3rd day, Clara's phone stayed silent. She called Hannah's number, straight to voicemail. Marcus's phone, the same. She tried texting, hoping for a delayed response from a patchy signal. Nothing. Clara's worry grew into dread. This wasn't like them. Hannah was meticulous, always sending a quick, "we're okay" text, especially since Liam was with them. By morning, Clara contacted the park rangers, her voice trembling as she explained her daughter's family was overdue. The rangers took it seriously. The Smoky Mountains span over 211,000 acres across Tennessee and North Carolina, a labyrinth of dense forests, steep cliffs, and hidden valleys. A family could disappear in a heartbeat. The search began immediately. Rangers, volunteers, and K-9 units poured into the park, starting at the trailhead where the Ellisons' car was found, locked and untouched. Inside were their camping permits, a half-eaten bag of trail mix, and Liam's sippy cup. It was as if they'd stepped onto the trail and evaporated. The search was grueling. The Smokies' terrain is unforgiving. Thick underbrush, fog that clings like a shroud, and trails that twist into nowhere. Helicopters buzzed overhead, but the dense canopy blocked their view. On the ground, trackers found no footprints, no scraps of clothing, nothing to suggest a struggle or a wrong turn. Clara arrived at the command center, clutching a photo of Hannah, Marcus, and Liam, smiling on a previous hike. She told rangers Marcus knew the wilderness like the back of his hand. He'd never take risk with Liam, she insisted. Something's wrong. I can feel it. Investigators dug into the couple's digital trail. Hannah's phone had synced a single photo to her cloud account, timestamped 2 days into their trip. It showed the family standing on a sunlit trail, framed by towering pines. Marcus, with his dark beard and easy grin, held Liam on his shoulders, the toddler's tiny hand gripping his dad's hair. Hannah stood beside them, her auburn hair pulled back, her smile soft but tired. She wore a green tank top and khaki shorts, a small backpack slung over one shoulder. The photo's metadata placed them near a popular overlook, a spot bustling with hikers. The angle suggested someone else took the picture, not a selfie. A stranger, another hiker, had captured this moment of joy. That image became the investigation's anchor, haunting in its normalcy. The rangers pinpointed the overlook and scoured the area. The trail was wide, well-traveled, not the kind of place you'd get lost. The presence of the cars suggested they'd planned to return, but the forest had other plans. The search stretched into weeks, with teams combing miles of trails and off-path thickets. The Smokies are a place where beauty hides danger, bears, sudden drops, streams that can sweep you away. Yet no sign of the Ellisons emerged. No dropped water bottle, no torn fabric, no trace of Liam's beloved Rusty. It was as if the mountains had claimed them. Clara's hope frayed, but she refused to give up, plastering missing posters across Tennessee. The case gripped the public, fueling theories. Had they fallen into a ravine, been attacked by wildlife, or was it something darker? Imagine if you were hiking, the sun dipping low, and you heard a child's cry in the distance. Would you follow it or keep walking? That's the kind of question this case forces you to wrestle with, because someone somewhere knew something. The photo proved it. Investigators focused on finding the hiker who took it, hoping they'd seen which way the family went. They shared the image on local news and online forums, asking for tips. Weeks later, a break. A woman from Ohio, a tourist named Ellen, contacted authorities. She'd been hiking that day and remembered taking the photo for a friendly couple with a little boy. They were so happy, she said. The dad was pointing out birds to the kid. Ellen recalled them heading deeper into the trail toward a less traveled spur. Nothing seemed off. No one lurking, no signs of distress. Her lead, while vivid, led nowhere new. The trail she described was searched again, yielding nothing. As the search dragged on, investigators explored other angles. The Smokies aren't just a haven for hikers. They're a hotspot for illegal activity, drug smuggling, poaching, even human trafficking along remote routes. Could the Ellisons have stumbled onto something they weren't meant to see? Marcus's photography hobby raised questions. He was always snapping photos, sometimes venturing off trail for a better shot. Had he captured something dangerous? His camera, likely with him, was never found. The theory gained traction when rangers found signs of illegal marijuana cultivation in a remote section of the park, not far from the family's last known location. The grow site was small but active, with trampled paths and hidden supplies. Drug runners in the Smokies were known to be ruthless, protecting their operations at all costs. Had the Ellisons crossed paths with the wrong people? The investigation chased this lead, interviewing known players in the regional drug trade. Informants claimed the grow site was run by a small, tight-knit group, but no one linked it to the disappearance. The theory felt promising but flimsy. Why would a family with a toddler be targeted? Still, the absence of evidence gnawed at investigators. No bodies, no belongings, no answers. After 3 months, the search scaled back. The Ellisons' case became a cold file, a ghost story for park rangers to recount. Clara kept pushing, organizing vigils, but the world moved on. The Smoky Mountains held their secret tight. Fast forward to July 2025, 6 years after the Ellisons vanished. A group of amateur botanists from a Knoxville college was hiking deep in the Smokies, studying native plant recovery after a recent wildfire. Led by Dr. Rachel Patel, a professor with a passion for rare flora, the group ventured into a restricted area under special permit. They were miles from the tourist trails, navigating rugged slopes and dense thickets. Around noon, they stopped to rest near a massive hemlock tree, its roots sprawling like veins across the forest floor. That's when Rachel noticed it, a grotesque, pulsating fungal growth clinging to the tree's base. It was unlike anything she'd seen, a sickly mix of green and gray, with bulbous, almost fleshy patches that seemed to throb in the dim light. The smell hit next, a rancid, choking stench of decay that made her gag. Rachel called her students over. They were mesmerized and repulsed, snapping photos of the mass. It looked less like a fungus and more like something from a nightmare. its surface slick and unnatural. The group debated its origins. A toxic spill? A rare slime mold? Rachel, with years of fieldwork under her belt, sensed something darker. The smell wasn't just decay, it was death. She'd read about fungal blooms feeding on organic matter, but this was extreme. Extreme. The group marked the spot and hiked back to their base camp, a small ranger outpost. That night, they showed the photos to a park ecologist, who frowned at the images. "That's not normal," he said. "Could be a large animal decomposing underneath, fueling that growth." The idea made sense, but Rachel couldn't shake the unease. What kind of animal would cause this? The next morning, the group returned with tools, shovels, sample kits, and a growing sense of dread. They began digging around the fungal mass, the stench worsening with every scoop. The soil was loose, almost too easy to move. A foot down, Rachel's shovel hit something solid yet yielding. She brushed away the dirt, expecting a root or stone. Instead, she uncovered a heavy-duty gray tarp, tightly wrapped and unnatural in the forest's embrace. The group froze. This wasn't an animal. This was deliberate. With trembling hands, they dug further, exposing more of the tarp. It was layered, sealed with precision, as if someone wanted whatever was inside to stay hidden forever. Rachel's mind raced. "We need to stop," she said, her voice barely a whisper. They grabbed their satellite phone and called the rangers. The discovery sent shockwaves through the Park Service. A forensic team was dispatched, airlifted to a nearby clearing and hiking hours to reach the site. The hemlock stood like a sentinel, the fungal mass a grotesque marker. The team secured the area, their faces grim as they sliced through the tarp. The smell was unbearable, a wall of decay that forced them to work in shifts. Inside, they found human remains, skeletal, wrapped tightly in the tarp. The scene screamed intent. This was no accident. The remains were those of an adult male, later identified through dental records as Marcus Ellison. 6 years after he vanished, Marcus had been found, buried in a hidden grave. But where were Hannah and Liam? The news reached Clara, now in her 60s, her hope long battered, but never broken. The confirmation of Marcus's death was a gut punch, shattering the faint chance they'd all survived. But the tarp, the careful burial, it pointed to foul play. Marcus hadn't died in a fall or an attack by a bear. Someone had hidden him. The investigation roared back to life, but new questions loomed. The autopsy revealed no obvious trauma, no fractures, no bullet wounds. The cause of death was unclear, but the burial suggested someone wanted to cover their tracks. And what about Hannah and Liam? The grave held only Marcus. Were they still out there, lost in the Smokies? Or had something far worse claimed them? The fungal mass became a key clue. Samples showed it thrived on decomposition gases, likely fueled by Marcus's body. But the tarp was the real lead, industrial grade, not something a hiker would carry. Trace evidence on it revealed flecks of limestone dust, uncommon in the burial site's soil, and traces of motor oil. These clues pointed to a specific location, somewhere outside the park. Investigators launched a new search, mapping areas with limestone deposits and heavy machinery. The Smoky Mountains had kept their secret for 6 years, but the truth was clawing its way out. Who buried Marcus, and what had they done with his wife and son? The discovery of Marcus Ellison's body, hidden beneath a grotesque fungal mass in the Smoky Mountains, shattered the 6-year silence of a mystery that gripped Tennessee. The heavy-duty gray tarp, the careful burial, it all screamed foul play, but the absence of Hannah and little Liam Ellison deepened the dread. Who had buried Marcus so meticulously, and what had happened to his wife and toddler son? The investigation, reignited in July 2025, turned from a search for missing hikers to a hunt for a killer. Every clue, the limestone dust, the motor oil, the industrial tarp, pointed to a truth buried not just in the forest, but in the shadows of human nature. The forensic team's analysis of Marcus's remains offered a chilling breakthrough. The advanced decomposition made cause of death tricky, but toxicological tests on bone marrow revealed traces of a potent sedative, midazolam, at levels suggesting an overdose. Midazolam wasn't something you'd find in a hiker's backpack. It was a controlled substance used in hospitals or veterinary clinics. Marcus hadn't died from a fall or wildlife attack. He'd been drugged, likely incapacitated before his body was hidden. This wasn't an accident gone wrong, it was deliberate. But why? And where were Hannah and Liam? The thought of them out there, alive, dead or worse, kept investigators up at night. It's the kind of case that sticks with you, makes you wonder what you'd do if someone you loved just vanished into thin air. The tarp became the investigation's lifeline. Its industrial-grade material wasn't sold in camping stores. It was used for heavy machinery, construction, or farming. The limestone dust and motor oil embedded in its fibers suggested it came from a specific environment, not the loamy soil of the Smokies. Investigators mapped areas within a 50-mile radius of the burial site, focusing on regions with limestone quarries or heavy equipment. The motor oil hinted at vehicles or machinery, maybe a garage or junkyard. They cross-referenced this with sales records of the tarp, narrowing it down to a handful of rural supply stores in eastern Tennessee. The process was grueling, like searching for a needle in a haystack the size of a mountain range. But the stakes were too high to stop. Clara, Hannah's mother, clung to hope, her voice breaking as she told reporters, "I just want to know where my daughter and grandson are." The mapping project zeroed in on a cluster of isolated properties near a limestone quarry outside Cosby, Tennessee, about 20 miles from the burial site. These were off-grid homes, old farms, and junkyards, places where people kept to themselves. Investigators approached cautiously, knowing rural residents could be wary of outsiders. They used pretexts like property tax audits or environmental checks to avoid tipping off suspects. At each location, they looked for the tarp, signs of heavy machinery, and soil matching the limestone dust. After weeks of dead ends, they reached a sprawling property owned by Everett Klein, a 62-year-old mechanic who lived alone. The place was a maze of rusting cars, stacks of tires, and oil-stained equipment tucked down a dirt road that felt like the edge of the world. Klein's property screamed isolation. The main house was a sagging cabin surrounded by sheds and a junkyard of broken-down vehicles. A rusted tractor sat under a gray tarp, its texture and weight identical to the one wrapped around Marcus. Nearby, a leaking oil drum confirmed the motor oil traces. Soil samples from the property matched the limestone dust perfectly. The investigators' hearts raced. This was it. They kept their visit brief, posing as county inspectors checking for illegal dumping. Klein was gruff, barely making eye contact, his answers clipped. "Ain't nobody's business what I do out here," he muttered, wiping grease-stained hands on his overalls. As they left, one detective noted rolls of the same gray tarp stacked in a shed. They had enough for a warrant. The search warrant was executed at dawn, with a tactical team moving silently through the fog-choked road to Klein's property. They detained him without resistance. He seemed almost resigned, his weathered face unreadable. The search began immediately, forensic teams combing the junkyard and cabin. The tarp by the tractor was a perfect match, down to the chemical composition. Soil samples confirmed the limestone dust, and traces of motor oil were everywhere. But the real horror lay inside the cabin. In a cluttered back room, hidden under a pile of old blankets, investigators found a locked metal box. Inside were personal items, a woman's silver bracelet engraved with Hannah, and a small, tattered stuffed bear, Rusty, Liam's favorite toy. Clara later confirmed both belonged to her daughter and grandson. The discovery hit like a freight train. Hannah and Liam had been here. The search intensified, every corner of the property now a potential crime scene. Investigators tore through sheds, dug up patches of disturbed soil, and checked for hidden compartments. In the basement, they found a rusted trapdoor leading to a damp earthen cellar. The air was thick with mildew and something worse, a faint familiar stench of decay. Flashlights revealed a grim scene, skeletal remains, partially buried under loose dirt, wrapped in scraps of the same gray tarp. The clothing fragments matched Hannah's green tank top and khaki shorts from the last photo. Dental records confirmed it was her. The autopsy revealed a fractured skull, suggesting blunt force trauma. Hannah hadn't died quietly. She'd fought, or someone had made sure she wouldn't. The cellar held no trace of Liam, and that absence was a knife to the heart. Where was the boy? Klein's interrogation began in a Stark County jail room. He sat stone-faced, denying everything at first. The evidence was overwhelming. The tarp, the soil, the personal items, Hannah's body. Detectives laid it out methodically, hour after hour. Klein's resolve cracked under the weight of it all. Late into the night, he confessed, his voice low and halting, as if the words burned coming out. What he revealed was a story of chance, desperation, and cold-blooded calculation. According to Klein, in July 2019, he was working on a truck in his junkyard when he heard a woman calling for help. It was Hannah, frantic, carrying Liam, who was crying and clutching Rusty. She said Marcus had collapsed on the trail after feeling dizzy and sick. They'd wandered off path to explore a stream, and Marcus had suddenly gone pale, unable to walk. Hannah, panicked and with no cell service, had carried Liam for hours, searching for help, until she stumbled onto Klein's property. She begged him to call for help or drive them to a hospital. Klein, who kept a satellite phone for emergencies, promised to help. He gave Hannah water and told her to wait in the cabin while he got his truck ready. But Klein had no intention of helping. He'd been living alone for decades, his life a tangle of resentment and paranoia. Hannah's desperation, her isolation, sparked something dark in him. He saw a chance to control a situation no one else knew about. He admitted to lacing a water bottle with midazolam, stolen years ago from a veterinary clinic where he'd done repair work. Marcus, already weak, drank it unknowingly on the trail, collapsing as the drug took hold. Hannah, unaware, drank a smaller dose later at the cabin, enough to make her drowsy. Klein claimed Marcus was already dead when he reached him, guided by Hannah's directions to the spot. He used his tarp to wrap and bury Marcus deep in the forest, choosing the hemlock tree for its remoteness. The fungal growth, he later learned, was a grim byproduct of the body's decay. Back at the cabin, Hannah realized something was wrong as the sedative hit her. She tried to run with Liam, but Klein overpowered her, striking her head with a wrench. He hid her body in the cellar, believing no one would find it. Liam, terrified and alone, was a problem that Klein didn't know how to handle. He claimed he couldn't bring himself to harm the boy. Instead, he drove Liam to a small town in rural Virginia, leaving him at a church with a note claiming the boy was abandoned. He kept Rusty and Hannah's bracelet as keepsakes, a twisted trophy of his control. Klein believed the distance and anonymity would keep him safe. For 6 years it had. Investigators were skeptical of Klein's claim about Liam. It sounded like a convenient lie to dodge a third murder charge. But they followed the lead. Church records in the Virginia town confirmed a toddler matching Liam's description was left there in August 2019. The boy, with no identification, was placed in foster care. Using DNA from Clara, authorities tracked down a now 8-year-old boy living with a foster family in Richmond. The DNA match was conclusive. It was Liam Ellison. He'd been adopted under a new name, unaware of his past. Clara's reunion with her grandson was bittersweet. Joy at finding him, grief for the parents he'd never see again. Liam remembered nothing of that day, only vague flashes of a stuffed bear and a woman's voice singing to him. Everett Klein was charged with 2 counts of murder, kidnapping, and illegal disposal of a body. He pleaded guilty, sparing Clara a trial, and was sentenced to life without parole. The case closed with answers, but not peace. The Smoky Mountains had given up their secret, but the cost was staggering. Clara raised Liam, telling him stories of his parents' love, hoping to keep their memory alive. The investigation revealed how a single moment, a family's plea for help, could spiral into unthinkable horror when it met the wrong person. I still think about this case sometimes. How a walk in the woods turned into a nightmare because of one man's choices. It makes you wonder how many other secrets are buried out there, waiting for someone to stumble across them. The fragility of life hits hard when you realize a stranger's decision can rewrite your entire story. Well, have you ever heard of a case like this? Comment your thoughts. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and catch you in the next one.